What's up, Hoosier Nation? This is our sixth week, I believe, Josh. Wow, of our midweek Big Ten Roundup show. As you should know by now, I am Michael. That is Josh on the other end. We're both the interns for the Assembly Call for this season. And we are here doing our weekly show to kind of summarize what's going on around the Big Ten. And we're going to preview the upcoming games for the Hoosiers. And there are some big ones. But before we get to that, Josh, I know there was a very eventful 6 days for Indiana. We had that blow up on Valentine's Day at the hands of Denzel Valentine on Sunday afternoon in East Lansing. But before that, there was a heck of a game in Assembly Hall on a late Thursday night with Dickie V in the house. We were both there just to put the viewers in our shoes and bring them back to Assembly Hall like they were in their college days. Well, how did you like that? Was that the most electric college atmosphere that you've been in?
Yeah, I mean that was right up there. I mean, you're in Assembly Hall, one of the most historic places in college basketball, and that place was loud right from the get-go. It was loud in pregame warm-ups when they put that Martha the Mop Lady video on the screen. People were going nuts. We were walking in the stadium, and the student line was wrapped around the parking lot, and it was just packed in there. Dickie V came in. He went right up into the student section. Did his little thing. I got to meet him. That was a huge thrill. Just incredible to meet Dickie V. And it was loud all night. I mean, I've been to a lot of Seahawks games, and those are like loud games. This rivaled that right there. I mean, it was loud in that building all night.
I mean, I'm with you right there. And that's probably the second loudest college basketball game, maybe even basketball game that I've ever been to. And coincidentally, the first one also came at Assembly Hall, I think 3 or 4 years ago now. Indiana, Michigan, 1-3. I came down with my uncle. That was not. I don't think anything will match that. This weekend, the Maryland game on Senior Day, I don't think anything's going to match that. But this was not far behind. I mean, I think everyone in the building knew that the Hoosiers were going to pull that one out. It kind of had that feel to me. And the buzz around campus surrounding the team. Josh, tell me if you agree or disagree. The buzz around campus in Bloomington and people close to the program and students and whatnot, I think we have just a great sense of optimism at this point. For some reason, like we looked terrible against Michigan State. Don't get me wrong. There were not a lot of positives and plentiful negatives to come out of that one, but there's a certain buzz on campus right now and surrounding this team and I saw a great tweet that summarized it perfectly. This team feels like it can either get upset in the first round or make a run to the Final Four. I agree with that. Do you have anything to say to that? I think that's incredibly accurate and both very optimistic but also scary at the same time when you think about it.
No, I mean, that's a great way of putting it. I mean, in the first half against Michigan State, we looked like a team that could go to the Final Four. Second half, not so much. And, I mean, going back to that Iowa game for just a second, Tom Crean in his post-game press conference said that atmosphere rivaled Kentucky from a couple years ago, and he said that the decibel level in Assembly Hall could have been broken on Thursday night. I mean, it was just incredible. But I mean, and now back to this team now. I mean, it's kind of a weird buzz around campus because like people have like this like cautious optimism, like, oh, we're actually kind of good, but we're only 22 in the rankings. So it's like it's when just like the casual basketball fan looks at the rankings like, oh, Indiana's 22, we're okay, and then you look at the standings. I mean, we're right up there in the Big Ten. So it's just kind of an interesting spot right now that the Hoosiers are in.
It's very interesting, and it seems like that the Hoosiers have underperformed to this point right now, but their record doesn't say anything too bad. But then you think about, who they've played and who they've got coming up, that changes things. And let's talk about who they've got coming up. We've got one game that everyone knows is a true test of the Hoosiers, but I believe the game before that, the Nebraska game in just 24 hours, is also a test to this Hoosier team. And I'll tell you why, because first of all, Nebraska's not very good. This is going to be my first point. Nebraska's not a very good team. Don't get me wrong. They don't have Teron Petaway like they did a couple years ago. They don't really have a good playmaker. But this is a test, in my opinion, because Nebraska doesn't have a lot of weapons. And Indiana just got embarrassed on the road. Just got embarrassed by Michigan State, coming off a huge win. And we all know they can win at home. Both the men and women team have not lost a game at home, by the way. The Hoosiers are undefeated this year, which is remarkable. But this is a Nebraska team that doesn't score a lot of points, and they don't rebound very well, and they also don't move the ball very well, which are 2 of 3 things that Indiana does incredibly well. So if they can assert their dominance early and move the ball well, hit open threes, get the ball down low to Thomas Bryant or Bielefeld if he comes in, if he wants to have another great game like he did against Iowa, and they want to move the ball and score enough points early, then this game could be over. They can control it and get a lot of confidence going into Purdue. They also have to get in the rebounding game because that Purdue game is going to be a grind, a 40-minute grind on the board. So they've got to rebound well early. They've got to score a lot and make their shots, and they have to move the ball and get open to see open looks early on in this game, as early as possible against the Nebraska team that statistically is not very good across the board.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their statistics, they're kind of middle of the pack everywhere. They're 6 and 7 in the Big Ten, just a very average team, and they're actually missing Siobhan Shields, who is not making the trip because of that nasty injury against Rutgers, so he's out for this one. That's a big loss for Nebraska. So what the Hoosiers have to do, you have to avoid disaster at all costs. This is a game you absolutely cannot lose. It's just like Minnesota. Only won by 6, but you avoided disaster at all costs. This is a game that you need to win if you want to keep moving forward in the Big Ten, where you are in the tournament picture right now, where Hoosiers are definitely moving up right now. And if they're going to keep doing that, this is a game you cannot lose. It's an absolute must-win. It's a game to get people back on track. Yogi Ferrell, we'll talk about him in a little bit. Troy Williams, definitely. This is a game where I think he definitely could break out, but it's a game that hopefully you can get ahead by a lot early and just kind of cruise through that, get to Purdue, but you cannot overlook Nebraska because Indiana did only beat them by 10. They beat Michigan State on the road, so this is a team very capable of doing some dangerous things, but without Siobhan Shields, I don't know how dangerous they'll actually be.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you're only saying that because this game's in Assembly Hall. If this were in Lincoln, I feel like we'd be a little more fearful after what happened in Happy Valley last week, 2 weeks ago now. But moving forward, you mentioned Yogi Ferrell, and we're going to get in depth on this in about 15 minutes. But my second key for this game is we've got to get Yogi some rest. Benny Parker is the name of the Nebraska point guard. He only plays around 25 minutes a game, and he doesn't really score. He averages, I think, around 5 points per game, if I'm not mistaken. So when he's on the floor, it's not necessary to have Yogi out on the floor trying to stop him. You know, Parker's not Melo Trimble. He's not Brandon Taylor, who torched Indiana. He's not even Bryant McIntosh, who struggled against Indiana. He's one of the bottom point guards in the Big Ten, starting point guards, I should say. However, defensively, this guy's one of the best on-ball defenders in the entire conference, maybe even the country. You just watch him from the get-go. He will try and stick Yogi, who's one of the most athletic guys that he'll see all season. But he's a very good on-ball defender. And Yogi's just got to make sure that he can score if he wants to, work the ball around if he wants to. That kind of ties into my first point. But also we need to jump ahead early. And building off my first point by asserting dominance early, Indiana's got to jump ahead early in order to afford taking Yogi out to get him some rest. And we'll talk more about that later, so I'll cut off my stream now. But second is get Yogi some rest by jumping out early and find some help for him if Benny Parker is shutting him down offensively.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a game where I don't think Nebraska is going to come out with a whole lot of fire. Actually, Tim Miles does get his teams to play hard. They're always going to compete. Haven't lost a game by more than 15 in conference, so we'll see what happens there. But just moving forward to Saturday now, my first key of this game is you have to neutralize their size. They have the triple towers, I guess you can say, with Haas, Hammonds, and Swanigan. You've got to find a way to neutralize that size. I don't know how it's going to happen. Maybe you play a lot of guards, spread the floor out. Maybe Thomas Bryant does not get in a whole lot. Maybe he definitely starts off the game, but then maybe just kind of tapers off at the end and you just play a lot of guards, hope your shot's falling. But you've got to find a way to neutralize that size because you're just not going to be able to compete with them on the boards like you have other teams in the conference when you got 2 7-footers starting the game and a third guy coming off the bench. So with all these guards that Indiana has, maybe they spread the floor out, maybe they play some zone on defense, and you cannot get in foul trouble in this game, especially Thomas Bryant, Max Bielfeldt, Colin Hartman. Those are 3 guys you absolutely cannot get in foul trouble because if you do, Hammonds and Swanigan and Haas are just going to eat on that inside and get a lot of rebounds, and that's not going to be good for Indiana. Indiana on Sunday actually did okay in the rebounding category. I believe they rebound Michigan State on the offensive glass. So with this size, that takes that away. So you just got to find a way to neutralize that size.
Yeah, and just kind of building off that, you can only beat Purdue if you are not Villanova or the obvious. You can only beat Purdue two ways: by out-rebounding them or by shooting the lights out. And those are really the only two ways. And good thing for Indiana is they can shoot the lights out, and they have almost every single game. But you've got to either out-rebound them or shoot the lights out. Maryland, when they beat Purdue, they tied in the rebounding. I think it was 35 apiece. When Purdue lost to Michigan, Michigan out-rebounded Purdue. Now, Purdue lost also to Iowa and Illinois. Illinois beat Purdue. Let that sink in. Illinois beat Purdue. If you don't have a lot of hope for this game, I want you to go to bed thinking that Illinois beat Purdue this year. And they both shot the lights out. Illinois shot 53%, I believe, from beyond the arc. 53%, which I don't think they made. I think it was like 9 of 17. Don't check my math on that. It was something in that range. 9 of 17 about. Indiana will take more than 17 threes, I'm guessing. Indiana will make more than 9 threes. Not by a lot, but they certainly could. So it won't take 53% as in like 12 of 21 or 12 of 20, but it'll take something along the lines of 13 to 15 made threes, which they're capable of doing. And they have to do that if they're not going to out-rebound them, which I anticipate them not doing. And I'll get to that in my pick to click later, but they've got to shoot the lights out if they want to win this game, because they will likely get out-rebounded, and it certainly can't hurt to crash the boards as hard as you can, because you really only have Thomas Bryant, and that's about it. But, yeah, they have to shoot the lights out, and they've got to make sure that they're hitting every single open look that they can get to kind of avoid a possible blowout if they just get dominated on the boards.
Yeah, I mean, and with Indiana playing at home at Assembly Hall, I mean, they have shot the ball very well all season long. Going back to those Illinois and Northwestern games, I think they averaged 50% from behind the arc in those two games, which is just a big number, and that's what you're going to have to do against Purdue. But with this being a big rivalry game, you cannot let emotions get the best of you. This is this rivalry game. Anything can happen. Throw the records out the door. Throw the rankings out the door. Anything can happen in these rivalry games, and emotions are going to get the best of you. You've got to be able to conceal those emotions. The crowd's going to be behind you. Let the crowd do all that yelling for you, because nobody's going to have Purdue's back on Saturday night. They're in a hostile place to play, although they have beaten Indiana a lot here lately, so you just got to be wary of that. But back to that point of having some pride on your home court. Don't let Purdue come in here and beat you once again on your home court. I don't want to see one of those dunks from John Octius like we did last year. I mean, that's embarrassing to see on your home court, and that got Purdue going and all of that. I don't want to relive that, but this is a game where you need to come out firing on all cylinders, like you were saying. Got to shoot the lights out. Indiana's done a great job of that at home, and with protecting that home court, this is Yogi Ferrell's last home game against Purdue, so he's going to want to try to get back on track, and that kind of leads us into what has happened with Yogi Ferrell. 9 points against Michigan State on Sunday. That was his first single-digit scoring output, I believe, of the season, if I remember correctly. So something's got to happen with Yogi Ferrell getting back on track. Hopefully it can be Wednesday against Nebraska, but if not, Saturday's another big chance for Yogi Ferrell to break out.
Yeah, and he's really due for this. He had that 30-point game against Wisconsin in an overtime loss on the road, which was heartbreaking, you can imagine, for a guy like him. But to me, I chalk this up to exhaustion, really. Yogi's played, I think, 34-plus minutes in, I want to say like 9 or 10 straight games, which is just a lot of minutes for this guy. 34 of he's averaging, I think, in those games. He's only hit 34 twice. He played 40 against Wisconsin. He's probably averaging around 37 minutes a game, 36 minutes a game, which is no one should ever have to average that in a team that's battled for some close wins here and there and lost some close ones. No guy should ever have to play that. And this leads right into my pick to click, so I'm going to save my next argument for later. But for right now, this has to do with exhaustion. And, like I said, he's got to get some rest. And how is that going to happen? We can talk about that. But how is that going to happen? Is it going to be Robert Johnson that steps up? Is it going to be the rest of the guys, Bielefeld, OG off the bench that can get some quality points while Yogi is sitting on the bench and he can stay there? Like we saw Thomas Bryant, and this had to do with foul trouble last week against Iowa. He was on the bench for – Josh, I don't know if you know the statistic. I'm putting you on the spot here. But it seemed like Thomas Bryant was on the bench for the final like 8 to 10 minutes of that Iowa game. Do you know the statistic on that?
I do not know the stat on that, but I believe you on that. I think if I remember correctly, I think you're right.
Because I know at the under 4 timeout he was not in the game and he never came in. I know in the under 8 timeout he was not in the game and he never came in. But I don't know past that. But regardless, he played almost half of the second half. I mean, granted, he had 4 fouls when he came out, but when they needed him in the end, he was not there, and they still pulled through with a win. But and the credit to the bench for that, like Bielefeld and OG. But we've got to get Yogi some rest. That's what it's going to take. That is what it's going to take for Indiana to get themselves on track. Going into Purdue, and then when they play Iowa on the road, and then Maryland. But that's what it's going to take for me against Nebraska. It starts tomorrow night. The bench guys have to step up. But I mean, this leads right into my pick to click, so I'm just going to do it. I'll let you have anything to say on this Yogi front other than exhaustion. What else could it be? Because his production's lacking too. But that you could also chalk that up to some tired legs.
I got one more thing. It's just I don't know who this other point guard is for Indiana. I mean, Yogi Ferrell's on the bench against Michigan State, and Michigan State comes all the way back. The offense is just there. There's just no leader out on the floor. I don't know if it's exactly Harrison Nego. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Crean says he's exactly where we want him to be, but there's just people in front of him, so we can't get him on the floor. I don't know if he's that leader, that backup point guard that Indiana needs, but it's something. It's too bad that Yogi has to be on the floor for that long, just because there's no other point guard that's really capable of doing what Yogi Ferrell does. I mean, Troy Williams has taken the point a couple times. That has not worked out well whatsoever. And then you got Robert Johnson. I mean, he's done a decent job, but it's just not the same when Yogi Ferrell isn't on the floor.
Yeah, and for those who are not familiar with Harrison Diego, we don't blame you. He's a walk-on freshman. And other than Yogi Ferrell, he's the only point guard that Indiana has. Yes, Robert Johnson can take it up, but he's the only point guard that Indiana has not named Yogi Ferrell. And he's a walk-on. He's a freshman, correct, Josh? Am I right on that, or am I screwing that up?
No, he's a freshman, I believe.
He's a freshman, so he's a walk-on. I knew he's a walk-on. I know if he's a freshman or sophomore. He is a walk-on freshman, we say. And you should trust us because we're very valuable sources. But he's a walk-on freshman, and he's the Hoosiers' backup point guard. So that obviously plays a lot into Yogi's PT and his exhaustion. However, we saw a lot from Diego against Iowa. Josh, we'll talk about this, but against Iowa, he hit that baseline jumper as the shot clock was expiring, and that was one play. And it was a clutch bucket, too, because the Iowa had taken a lead, I believe. And this was either to get that lead back or tie it up or make it a one-possession game, whatever. But the shot clock was winding down, and he had a shot clock violation earlier in the game in the first half and came out. Second half, similar situation, shot clock winding down, no one was open. He's got the ball looking for someone, taking it under the hoop, looking for someone, and he realizes, uh-oh, I got to take the shot. So you know what he does? He gets open, makes a move, and knocks down a 15-footer. I mean, that's a huge step for a walk-on freshman like him to have the confidence to take the final shot in the shot clock, knock it down, and then he played good defense on the baseline. I think he forced a turnover that next play. But that's beside the point. But this guy, he's growing right before our very eyes. And some games he plays like 12 minutes, and others you don't see him. And, he will, I think, play a role in this Nebraska game because he's going to have to, because this is a chance for him to step up. Like I said, what was his name? I'm completely blanking on it. Excuse me. Benny Parker, the point guard for Nebraska, not that great. He can't score. He plays good defense, but he can't score. So that's perfect for Harrison Diego to step up and give Yogi some rest because Diego's not looking to score. So that lockdown defense from Parker is not going to affect him. And Parker can't score very well, so that's going to be a good confidence booster for Diego if he can get a couple stops. But, we're kind of beating a dead horse here. But that Yogi thing, it's got to solve itself quick or this team's doomed. And I'm going to have – because that's just such a perfect transition. I got to lead into my pick to click for that. And my pick to click for that Nebraska game tomorrow is Robert Johnson. I mean, if he can give us 30-ish, give or take 1 or 2, not even give, take 1 or 2 minutes. If he can give 30 to 32 minutes of solid guard play and help out Yogi, earn him some rest, this game can be broken open, and Yogi can sit on the bench playing less than 30 minutes, which is much, much, much needed for him. He should not be needed for 35 minutes in this game against Nebraska. If he plays 35 minutes in this game, something else is terribly wrong, and we shouldn't even talk about this. The whole Yogi thing. Something else will be terribly wrong if he's needed for 35 minutes. So if he can get in like 27 to 29, IU can get away with a double-digit win, and the other guys need to show up if that needs to happen. But it starts with Robert Johnson. And this is where Indiana misses James Blackman. And, they need him in this game going forward, looking at Purdue, Maryland, and Iowa on the road. They need James Blackman. This is where they miss him because they're short one guard, and they only have 2-point guards. And while James Blackman is a shooting guard, that is one guard that can fill Yogi's spot and, take away 2 to 3 minutes a game for him. So I'm looking at Robert Johnson now. The pressure is on Robert Johnson to have a good game, knock down some open shots, get some stops, lead to fast breaks, and break this game open for Indiana and earn Yogi some much-needed rest.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point right there. And Yogi's going to need that rest come Big Ten tournament time when you're playing a bunch of games in just a few days. Got to have fresh legs at some point. But my pick to click in this game is going to be Colin Hartman. He had a great game on Sunday against Michigan State. He was one of, I believe, just 4 Hoosiers in double digits. He had 11 points. 4 of 5 shooting. I mean, he was very efficient from the floor, and he's getting really good off the dribble, dishing it out off to the wing, getting to the rim off the dribble. I mean, I think that's a big key for Colin Hartman moving forward. Is just have his game evolve just a little bit more. He just seemed to be a shooter, and he can still do that. But I think he's really coming into his own off the dribble. Good passer. He's becoming more confident, I think, and that's why we're seeing him kind of starting to break out a little bit. But I think tomorrow against Nebraska is a big chance for Colin Hartman to have another big game, and the Hoosiers might need it if Yogi Ferrell's on the bench and Harrison Nigo's in there or Robert Johnson running the point. I mean, he's an upperclassman. He's a junior. He has been through this Big Ten a few times, and I think Wednesday's a big chance for him to break out.
Yeah, and ever since we got on him, he suddenly knocked down his shots, and like you said, he's getting better off the dribble. So, maybe he's watching, maybe he's not. We don't know, but he certainly stepped up his game, and he's been very valuable to the Hoosiers because him and Zeisloft were needed in that Penn State loss and other losses earlier in the year. But it's good to see him step up, and it's a lot of pressure off of the other guards, and even Troy Williams, who's just been a complete menace this year, and he's been really struggling. And he is my pick to click for Purdue. I called for it last week against Iowa. I called for him to break out. I said, this is his game. This is a perfect chance. You want to dethrone Jared Utoff in Iowa? Step up. You've been terrible all year. Prove us wrong. You want to be an NBA talent? Go show us. And he didn't really do that. He hit the boards pretty well. He had a couple buckets late that were clutch, got to the free throw line. But, again, all we're seeing is just these quick flashes from Troy Williams, and that's it. That's all we've seen. And this game, Iowa was a huge game. Don't get me wrong. That was a huge win, a great win, and a fantastic game. But Purdue means something to Indiana. They hate Purdue. So this means something to Troy Williams. Whether or not, it doesn't matter how old he is, whether you're a freshman or a senior, the Purdue game means something to you that the other games don't. It's for bragging rights. It's a huge game. I shouldn't have to explain it. So this is actually, I take back what I said last week. This is the perfect chance for Troy Williams to break out. He can't do it all. He's not going to do it all because this is the toughest rebounding matchup Indiana will see all year. Don't even think twice about that. He can't do it all. He won't grab 15 boards, but he could try. And it couldn't hurt if he could try because Thomas Bryant is all Indiana has when it comes to rebounding for guys not named Troy Williams. And Troy Williams has to step up because Thomas Bryant can't do it alone against those 3 big men. Troy Williams is the team's leading rebounder. Wow, that's not a word. He is the team's leading rebounder with almost 7 a game. I'm not asking him to lock down a big man defensively because we all know he can't do that. I'm just saying, Troy, hit the boards, come out of the game as the leading rebounder, and you are going to put your team in a position to win the biggest game of the year.
Yeah, and talking about rebounding, my pick to click for Purdue is Thomas Bryant. This guy is going to have one of the toughest matchups of the entire season. He's got 3 big guys that he has to deal with, and if he gets in foul trouble early on, this is going to be a disaster for the Hoosiers. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully he can stay out of foul trouble like he did, I believe, against Michigan State. Correct me if I'm wrong, but one of these 2 last games, he stayed out of foul trouble, and he was really good. He was very effective in the game, and he's going to need to do that Saturday against Purdue because going up against those 3 7-footers, you're going to need all hands on deck, and it starts with Thomas Bryant. He's just a freshman. He'll have his freshman moments, but this is a game where he's got to step up and just do whatever it takes to grab some extra rebounds, be that energy source. We have seen that energy from him all year. Assembly Hall is going to be packed. He's going to be feeding off the crowd. The crowd's going to be feeding off of his energy. He's a guy for the Hoosiers that has to have a big game for the Hoosiers if they want to come away with a win.
Yeah, and that goes without saying. With what Purdue brings to the table, the weight is going to be on the shoulders of Thomas Bryant and even Troy Williams, and they've got to hit the boards. It's got to happen or this game's over. The best shooting in the world is not going to overcome a 10 rebound deficit. It's just not going to happen. But let's get into these picks. So Nebraska, I think is probably obvious to everyone listening. I think everyone here is probably going to pick Nebraska. Josh, I am. Are you?
Yes, definitely picking Indiana in this game.
Okay, thank you. So Hoosiers over Nebraska. We can agree on that. Purdue. Actually, before we get to that, what are the Ken Palm numbers for that Nebraska game, just to get everyone a sense of how confident they should be statistically going in?
Okay, so we got Nebraska comes in ranked 88th in Ken Palm, 85% chance to win by a score of 81-70. So pretty confident that the Hoosiers are going to get a win there. Against Purdue, a little bit more confident than I thought. Purdue's ranked 17th in Ken Palm. Indiana's in the 20s still, with a 63% chance to win by a score of 74-71. So he has a close game for that one and a 63% chance to win. So probably a closer game than or actually, I was expecting some percentage in the 50s, but yeah. Ken Palm seems to like the Hoosiers a little bit.
And it's weird to see a 63% chance of winning, but only a 3-point game. If you say 63%, I'd see more like a 5, 6, but that's that's neither here nor there. But this Purdue game scares me a lot, Josh. I'm going to be honest with you. With what Purdue brings to the table, we've dissected it as much as we possibly could, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse again here. I like the Hoosiers in this one, but only because it's at home. If they were playing Saturday night in West Lafayette, to be completely honest with you, Jared, I'm sorry, I would put my money on the Boilers. However, because this game is at home, I'm picking the Hoosiers by 3 to 4 points. I think that's very fair. And it took blood, sweat, and tears against Iowa. It took everything that the Hoosiers had to win that game. It took a 15-point lead early and everything down the stretch to win that game against a very good Iowa team with a very good leader in Jared Uthoff. But it's going to take that exact same effort to beat Purdue. Despite Purdue being a lesser team, they just have more obstacles to overcome if you're Indiana. So they can't show up by performing they can't perform any less than they did against Iowa and expect to win this game. They've got to replicate that performance, but they can do it in a number of different ways. So I think they win.
Yeah, I actually like that reasoning a lot. If just with this game being in Assembly Hall, they've been so good at home this year, and they've been shooting the ball so well. And you were saying earlier, that's how you beat Purdue, is by shooting the ball well, and that's what Indiana does really well at Assembly Hall. And I'm going to go with the Hoosiers also in this game, but more so just because it's at Assembly Hall. If it's up in West Lafayette on a Saturday night, 8:30 start, that's a tough game to win. But with it being at Assembly Hall, the crowd is going to be as or more pumped up for this game just because it's a weekend. The students are going to be out of school. They're going to be able to prepare all day for that as they most likely will. And it's going to be a raucous atmosphere, but you've got to be able to shoot the ball, and you've got to be able to at least contain those 3 7-footers in the rebounding category. And if Indiana doesn't, I don't know if they're going to come away with a win, but I think they will control the rebounding to an extent. I don't know if they'll win that rebounding battle, but it'll be closer than 10 rebounds, like you were saying. And I see Indiana maybe winning by 5 or 6 just because of free throws at the end, like against Iowa. But I definitely have the Hoosiers in this one.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, for those listening, if you're worried about the rebounding margin, I'm going to give you this number real quick. The Purdue Northwestern game just went final just now. Purdue won 71-61. Purdue out-rebounded Northwestern 45-24. 45-24. And Northwestern had this at a 6-point game with about 4-ish minutes to go. So the final media timeout, this was a 2-possession game for Northwestern, being out-rebounded by 21, almost double. So Indiana is a far better team than Northwestern. They are also playing at home. So, take this all with a grain of salt. They don't, directly coincide with each other, but Northwestern got out-rebounded by 21 on the road against Purdue and had it a 2-possession game late. Take that with a grain of salt, however you want to talk about, however you want to think about that, however you want to feel about that. I'm just here to tell you that's what happened. And actually looking at that gives me a spark of optimism going forward. If Indiana does get, completely manhandled in the rebounds and gets out rebounded by 10, they could still very well win this game. And Purdue, I'm looking at this now, Purdue had 19 offensive rebounds, which is 5 fewer than Northwestern had total rebounds. That's outstanding and embarrassing for both teams. But, just take that however you want. Those numbers they're astounding, but still a pretty close game.
Yeah, I mean, and Indiana's going to have to shoot the ball well, and even if they don't rebound well, hopefully they can rely on that shooting. Maybe even play some zone defense on the defensive side of the floor to just kind of neutralize that size that Purdue brings. I'm not so worried about that rebounding as I am about the size factor. Just on the block, because I feel like rebounds are just going to come as they will. But just that size down low, I don't know if Colin Hartman. So if you have Swanigan and Haas or Hammonds in the game at the same time, I mean, who is going to guard those guys? If you have Thomas Bryant on the bench, or if you have Max Bielfeldt in the game, or if you have both of them in the game, I don't know. Maybe we'll see Max Bielfeldt start again, see Colin Hartman come off the bench. He succeeded well on Sunday coming off the bench with 11 points. Bielfeldt played well in the starting lineup. So maybe we're going to see Bielfeldt come or start on the floor to start the game, just because he's another big body and they're bigger than Colin Hartman. But it's that size down low that just worries me about this game a little bit.
Yeah, and we've been calling for Bielfeldt / Anunoby in the starting lineup going into that Iowa game, and it didn't happen, but it did in East Lansing. So did you like that change that Tom Crean made? Because we were calling for it. Did you like that? Would you like to see that going forward?
I actually would like to see that going forward. I just don't think Indiana has enough size in the starting lineup with Colin Hartman in there, and especially with Troy Williams doing what he's been doing, which is not much lately. You need something coming off the bench like Colin Hartman, like OG Anunoby. I think that's a great tandem coming off the bench, and Bielfeldt in there provides another big man while he's just 6'8" or 6'9". He can also stretch the floor a little bit. He can shoot a three, which that brings Hammonds or Swanigan or Haas out to the wing. And then you just have a one-on-one matchup, which is much more favorable than having those two guys down there. So maybe Bielfeldt stretching the floor a little bit, seeing out on the wing, that could help the Hoosiers neutralize that size.
Yeah, this will be a chess match back and forth. And, like you said, Bielfeldt is going to be a huge X factor in trying to help Tom Crean win that chess match against Matt Painter. Because this is going to be a lot of coaching going back and forth. This is going to be a very tactical game. And when Bielfeldt and OG check into the game, it's going to play a huge role in the outcome, because those guys are undoubtedly the unsung heroes thus far of the Hoosier season. But, Josh, let's talk upset picks. We went out on a huge limb last week, and we actually, for those who listened to it but didn't catch the two games we were talking about, which is probably every last one of you, we were very, very close. What was the final score of your Rutgers pick?
I believe it was 79-69 Ohio State. So, I mean, that's a 10-point game right there. That's right there for a Rutgers team that is not won.
It was even closer. It was, a one-possession game? Like, kind of late in the game, or am I making that up? Was that the minute? No, that was a close game.
Yeah, no. Rutgers was in the game the entire time. I don't think it was out at the 20-point mark at any point in that game. It was right there for Rutgers to make a run, and they just never did. So, all
right. Well, before we make our upset picks, I want to throw this matchup out here. 7 days from this moment, from this here moment right now, Minnesota and Rutgers, the matchup Josh and I have been waiting for a long time. Josh, I know Corey Sanders is your guy. He's a big-time player. Are you going with him and the Knights in this one?
He's a big-time player when you're talking about Rutgers and that level of basketball. But, take it how you will. Do you know where this game is? I don't. Is it in Minnesota?
I didn't have it. I didn't write it down. I couldn't tell you. Is it?
Yeah,
I'll check for you right now.
No, it's at Minnesota. Okay. I think I'm going to go with the home team in that game, because Minnesota, for your upset pick, Minnesota only lost by 6 to Michigan. So, I mean, they're a good team at home. Indiana saw that. They only won by 7 there. I think Minnesota's going to come away with the win. They're just a more complete team than Rutgers is just really Corey Sanders, if you want to take it that way.
Well, his numbers never lie when it comes to Corey Sanders and Rutgers, and his numbers are not bad. I'll give him that. But I'm going to agree with you there. Just a little fun pick. I've got Minnesota over Rutgers, and that will be Minnesota's not first, but second conference win. But you say, Michael, they haven't won one yet, and I'm going to say, well, shoot, I'm so sorry. I read this wrong. First win for Minnesota. I thought I picked Rutgers. First win for Minnesota in that one. That's embarrassing. But this is a perfect, complete mess of a transition into my upset pick, which is Rutgers over Illinois, which has just tipped off. I believe it's in Champaign, but don't write me down on that. I'm not certain. And I know Rutgers has not won a Big Ten game yet, and they probably won't, but this is their chance. Because I was in Evanston this past weekend to watch Northwestern Illinois for the Land of Lincoln Trophy, and Illinois is terrible. Illinois is really, really bad. The only reason they were in that game is because Northwestern was cold. Their starters didn't shoot the ball well. They relied on their bench and Scotty Lindsey, and Illinois hit a lot of threes. Illinois, at one point, I think in the second half, all but 4 of their field goals maybe were three-pointers. Okay, that's not good. If you're going to live and die by the 3 and your team is not very talented, you're probably going to die by the 3 9 times out of 10. And they lived by the 3 against Northwestern, which is going to say that odds are they're going to die by the 3 against Rutgers this very night. I like Rutgers and big-time Corey Sanders, Josh's boy, to show his big-time player status in this one, seal the deal on Josh Gross's firing and unemployment going into next year for Illinois in what's been a complete train wreck of a season for them in all seriousness. And Rutgers gets this win, and I don't know what the score is right now, but Rutgers will get the win. I'm telling you, I was close with Minnesota last week in my winless pick, but Rutgers gets the win.
Thank you for finally jumping on this Scarlet Knights bandwagon. I'm really excited to have you now. But my upset pick is next Tuesday after or actually I think it's before you tune into Rutgers in Minnesota game of the year. You're going to see Ohio State take care of Michigan State in Columbus. It's a Super Tuesday game on ESPN. Ohio State just came off a win against Michigan tonight. I think Ohio State is going to carry that into next week, and they're going to beat the Spartans on their home floor. It's going to be a big game with Michigan State coming off probably a tough game, even though it's at home against Wisconsin on Thursday. I think they're going to flop a little bit on the road, and the Buckeyes are going to come away with a big win. If you look at the standings right now, Michigan State's 8-5, and so is Ohio State. So those teams are right in there for seeding in the Big Ten tournament. This is a big game for both teams, really, although Michigan State's already in the top 10, which doesn't really match up with their conference record, but that's a different story. But I think the Buckeyes are going to come away with a win against a pretty good Michigan State team that we just saw on Sunday.
And it's not a Sunday morning in Columbus, but it's the next best thing, right? Nothing quite like those Sunday mornings in Columbus, Josh.
Exactly. Gotta love them.
Yeah, nothing quite like them. And we don't lie. It was a great game when we called it, so the next time it happens, keep your eye out for it. But I want to run a question by you because Wisconsin just got a great road win, I believe, on Saturday against Maryland. And they travel to East Lansing. I can't remember when. It's in the next couple days. But they travel to East Lansing to play Michigan State. When is it?
Thursday.
It is Thursday. Okay, that's what I thought. They travel to East Lansing to play Michigan State. What do you see there? Could Wisconsin walk out of there with another shocking upset?
I do not see Michigan State losing on their home floor. That's just too tough of a place to play. It's kind of like playing at Wisconsin. They have great home atmospheres, but I don't know if Wisconsin is good enough to go on the road and beat Denzel Valentine and that Michigan State team. I just think they have too many weapons for Wisconsin, and just being at home, that's just such a tough place to play. I don't know if I see Michigan State losing that one.
Even with Nigel Hayes on Denzel, you don't think that has potential? I mean, they just shut down Trimble, Suleiman, Lehman, and Stone. I mean, why can't they stop Denzel?
I don't know. I just feel like Denzel is just he's too complete of a player. I mean, he can, if he's not scoring, he's going to provide some assists or rebounds. If he's not assisting, he's going to probably score or grab some rebounds. I mean, he is like talking about like a 5-tool player in baseball. I mean, he's kind of like that 3-category player in basketball. He can score, he can rebound, and he can dish it out. I don't know. I mean, there's definitely potential for that because that's a good matchup with Hayes on Valentine, but I don't know. I just don't know if I see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because Wisconsin's a grinded-out team. And obviously Nigel Hayes, that guy can ball. And Bronson Koenig, he's an X factor there. But by the end of the year, if Wisconsin can pull this out, that could turn into a good home win that Indiana ground out and a respectable loss in Madison in overtime. If Wisconsin can get this win, that grinded out mentality that they have been playing with all year. But that's a separate argument. We're here to talk Hoosiers, and it is a big week for the Hoosiers coming up. And we hope we've talked enough about them and said all you need to hear. You can continue to tweet us questions throughout the week. We'll get back to you. Our Twitter handles are right here. Josh's is at Josh Eastern. In case you can't see his writing's a little small right now, but you can see my handle right there. Josh is at Josh Eastern. Feel free to tweet us or at Assembly Call. Make sure to follow and subscribe. Get on that email list. And don't forget to watch the Hoosiers tomorrow night in action against Nebraska. And then Saturday, 8:30 primetime tip Eastern against Purdue in the in-state battle. Josh, do you have any final words to say? Anything to say about tomorrow, about the crowd against Iowa that was just so crazy, about what we could see against Purdue, anything at all?
I'm just really excited to see what that crowd brings on Saturday night. I mean, Thursday is kind of a day, got school and all that, but now the students, I mean, you got all day to prepare for that game. It's going to be a wild atmosphere and there's going to be some Purdue faithful in the crowd, I'm sure. And it's a rivalry game. It's rivalry week in college basketball, and you got Duke, North Carolina tomorrow. That's always a fun game, no matter how good or bad those teams are. So, I mean, rivalry is a rivalry. Always fun to watch.
Absolutely. That should be fun. Make sure you tune into that because, I feel like this is probably like the fourth time maybe that you and I have said this, but the Hoosier season can certainly take off or just hit rock bottom on Saturday night, depending on the outcome.
Or tomorrow if you lose. I mean, can't do that.
Or tomorrow. Oh, man, don't even say that. I can't even fathom that right now. That's ridiculous.
Got to avoid that at all costs. That was my key.
Yeah, avoid that loss at all costs, which they've done a nice job of that at home this year. But,
definitely.
Each game at a time. But I think that just about does it for us. That's Josh on the other end. I'm Michael, student interns for the Assembly Call. Doing our this is the end of our 6th week, I believe, Josh. Wow, that's crazy. Our 6th week of this weekly Big Ten Roundup edition of the Assembly Call. Be sure to tune in tomorrow at halftime of the Nebraska game for that halftime report. Jared's going to bring you all the good stuff. And then the post-game show, as always, with the guys just following the conclusion of that game. Same deal on Saturday for Purdue. Everybody have a great night and a great week, and go Hoosiers.